What is up, Star Gossip TV family? If you thought the war between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins had reached its peak, you were dead wrong. What we witnessed this week on Monday Night Raw wasn't just a battle, it was a complete and utter annihilation, a statement so violent and so definitive that it has sent shockwaves through the entire WWE Universe. The tribal chief didn't just show up, he declared war on Seth Rollins' entire faction, and he started by dismantling its most monstrous member, Bronson Reed, in one of the most shocking and brutal confrontations in recent memory. This is the moment that changes everything. This is the content you simply cannot miss. So, if you want the most engaging, in-depth breakdown of WWE's most explosive stories, you need to hit that subscribe button and smash the like button right now. This is Star Gossip TV, and we are diving deep into the carnage. Welcome back to Star Gossip TV, your number one source for all the jaw-dropping, pulse-pounding action from the world of WWE. The tension has been simmering for weeks, a slow-burning fuse lit by the arrogant smirk of the visionary, Seth freaking Rollins. But Seth isn't fighting alone anymore. In a shocking twist of fate, he has assembled his own formidable faction, a group masterminded by none other than the wise man himself, Paul Heyman, and featuring the raw, explosive power of Bron Breakker and the colossal, terrifying force of Bronson Reed. This new alliance, this visionary empire, seemed unstoppable, a direct challenge to the dominance of the Bloodline. Last week, Roman Reigns sent a threatening message, a promise of retribution that hung heavy in the air. But tonight, on Raw, the tribal chief made good on his promise in a way nobody could have ever predicted. He didn't target Seth directly. He targeted his most powerful weapon, and he broke him in half for the entire world to see. The atmosphere on Monday Night Raw was electric, crackling with the arrogant energy of Seth Rollins' new faction. Earlier in the night, they had stood tall in the ring, a united front of terrifying potential. Paul Heyman, the architect of this new empire, held the microphone, his voice oozing with a smug sense of victory as he detailed their inevitable takeover of WWE. Bron Breakker stood poised like a pit bull ready to be unleashed, his eyes scanning the crowd with pure, unadulterated aggression. And then there was Bronson Reed, the Colossus of Raw. He stood as the faction's immovable object, their final boss, a mountain of muscle and menace who had laid waste to the entire roster. Following Heyman's proclamation, Reed issued an open challenge, bellowing that there wasn't a single soul backstage man enough to face him. The silence that followed was deafening, a testament to the very real fear he instilled. It was in this vacuum of opposition that the familiar, ominous gong hit. The entire arena froze. A wave of disbelief washed over the crowd. This wasn't his show. This wasn't his night. But Roman Reigns doesn't ask for permission. The tribal chief, with the undisputed WWE Universal Championship resting regally on his shoulder, emerged from the smoke. His expression was not one of rage, but of cold, calculated fury. He didn't sprint to the ring, he walked with the deliberate, menacing gait of a king entering a conquered land. Paul Heyman's face, once filled with smug confidence, drained of all color. He was caught between two masters, a rat on a sinking ship. Reigns stepped into the ring, his eyes locked not on Heyman, not on the hypothetical idea of a challenge, but directly on Bronson Reed. The stare-down was iconic, the established, dominant champion versus the hungry, monstrous challenger. Reigns slowly removed his championship and his vest, handing them to a petrified official at ringside that he was here for one thing and one thing only, to send a message to Seth Rollins written in the pain of his largest soldier. The bell never rang, this was never officially a match. This was an execution. Reed, fueled by arrogance and the desire to impress his new leader, made the first move, charging forward like a runaway train. But Reigns, the veteran, the master strategist, simply sidestepped the charge, allowing Reed's momentum to carry him clumsily into the turnbuckle. Reigns' offense was not about flashy moves, it was about systematic dismantling. He focused on the big man's legs, chopping him down like a tree with methodical, thunderous kicks to the knee. He was taking away the base of the tsunami splash before Reed could even think about launching himself into the air. Reed, frustrated, began to use his raw power, catching Reigns and slamming him into the mat with a thunderous body slam that shook the ring. For a moment, it looked like the Colossus might overwhelm the tribal chief. He hit a huge running splash in the corner and began to taunt, signaling for the end, for the tsunami. The crowd held its breath. But as Reed climbed to the second rope, turning his back to position for the splash, Reigns sprang to life. He hit the ropes, causing Reed to lose his balance for a critical split second. That was all the opening the champion needed. As Reed leaped, Reigns rolled through, and Reed crashed and burned on the mat, the impact echoing throughout the arena. The mistake was made. The Predator had been given his opening. Reigns' eyes glazed over with that familiar killer instinct. The game was over. What followed was a clinic in brutality. Roman Reigns unleashed a side of himself we haven't seen since the peak of his feud with Brock Lesnar. This wasn't about retaining a title, it was about asserting total and complete dominance. He dragged the dazed Reed to the center of the ring and began a vicious assault. One Superman punch connected, snapping Reed's head back. Then another. Reed was on his knees, a groggy giant, completely at the mercy of the tribal chief. Reigns didn't go for the pin. There was no pin to be had. He stood over him, a conqueror surveying his work. He pointed to the WrestleMania sign hanging high above the ring, a direct message to Seth Rollins. This is what awaits you. This is the reality of my kingdom. And then, he called for the end. He hoisted the 300-plus pound Bronson Reed onto his shoulders with a terrifying display of strength. The crowd erupted as he nailed the devastating spear, driving Reed into the canvas with such force it seemed to warp reality itself. But he wasn't done. He wasn't nearly done. Reigns pulled Reed up again, delivering a second spear, even more impactful than the first. Reed was not moving. He was a broken heap in the middle of the ring. Reigns stood tall, his chest heaving, not from exhaustion, but from pure, unadulterated fury. He grabbed his championship, and without a single word, he placed his boot on the chest of the fallen giant. He didn't need to speak. The image said it all. The Visionary's most powerful weapon had been dismantled, humiliated, and left for dead. The message was received. The aftermath was one of stunned silence, quickly replaced by a roaring mix of applause and horror. Roman Reigns slowly exited the ring, the gold glistening on his shoulder, his work complete. He didn't look back. He didn't smirk. His expression remained one of cold, serious business. Back in the ring, officials and medics scrambled to attend to the completely motionless Bronson Reed. The camera panned to the backstage area, where we saw Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker watching on a monitor, their faces a perfect portrait of shattered confidence and boiling rage. Their grand plan, their seemingly unstoppable faction, had been gut-punched on its first night of true proclamation. Paul Heyman was nowhere to be seen, likely already trying to spin this catastrophe to his new boss. The psychological victory for the Bloodline was absolute. Roman Reigns didn't just win a fight, he exposed a critical flaw in Seth's new empire. He proved that raw power, without the wisdom and experience of a true tribal chief, is meaningless. He proved that he can walk into any arena, on any night, and dismantle any threat put before him. He isolated a member of the pack and destroyed him, sending a clear warning to Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and the traitorous Paul Heyman: your rebellion is welcomed. Your challenge is noted. And it will be crushed, one member at a time, until only the tribal chief remains standing. So, what does this all mean? The war for the soul of WWE has just escalated to a level we haven't seen in years. Roman Reigns, by annihilating Bronson Reed, has done more than just win a physical confrontation. He has won the first major psychological battle. He has sown seeds of doubt within Seth Rollins' faction. He has shown Bron Breakker what true, main-event level violence looks like. And he has absolutely terrified Paul Heyman. This was a strategic masterpiece executed with brutal efficiency. The road to WrestleMania is now paved with more tension, more drama, and more uncertainty than ever before. The question is no longer if these two factions will collide, but when, and what will be left standing in the aftermath. Seth Rollins now has to respond, and his response needs to be just as powerful, just as shocking, to regain any of the momentum he just lost in the most devastating way possible. The war is on, people. This story is just getting started, and you are not going to want to miss a single second of the fallout. What will Seth Rollins do next? How will Bron Breakker respond? And what in the world is going through the mind of Paul Heyman? You know we will have all the breaking news and deep analysis right here. So, do not be left behind. Smash that like button if your jaw is still on the floor, subscribe to Star Gossip TV for the most engaging WWE content on YouTube, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments who you think won the night, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins faction.